I'm just at the finishing bench. I've been working on a batch of four classics and a couple of Hornets. I've got to the point now where I've finished all of the handle shaping, and I just want to take the handle to a finish now. I generally work the wood to a 1200 and polish it from there, and I generally take the steel, the tang, to 3000, and so that's what I'm doing now. Down here I've got my knife maker's vise, specially made for holding the knife, and just got to work through the grits. I tend to start around about 220 and work through the grits in stages: 220, 400, 600, 1200, 2000, 3000, and end up with a nice handle finish. All the woods are stabilised on the knives that are in this batch, apart from one, which is desert ironwood. That wood is so dense you can't stabilise it, so that's just a natural finish on that. Anyway, let's crack on, get this this handle sanded. At the pommel here, you get this sharp edge. It's important to round that off. So I just carefully round those sharp edges off with the 280. That means they'll be less inclined to chip out. The next grits are 400, so I'm taking out the previous scratches from the last grit. Now progressed up to 1200 grit, and I'm working on the internal curves of the tang here, and I use steel mandrel and just wrap the abrasive around that. When you get to more intricate areas like the finger choil there, I use a steel mandrel of a smaller diameter. Yeah, just wrap that round there, and then that allows me to to work into there and polish that area. Keep moving to expose fresh grit. And it doesn't take long before you start to polish the steel. And then I'll progress up to the next grit. I generally go 1200, 2000 and then 3000. So the next grit I'll move up to now will be 2000. Wrap it around the mandrel. And you just see it start to polish up. And again, just keep twisting to expose new grit. It's starting to shine up nicely. Once you get to the finer grits, the progression is fairly quick, as long as there's no deeper scratches from previous grits left. It helps also on the final strokes of that particular grit you're on to keep going one direction, because if you go backwards and forwards you leave tiny hooks. You won't see it so readily with the finer grits, but you leave tiny little U-turns in the steel, and by going in one way like this it takes those little U-turns out. Turning through 90 degrees, I've got this other little vise here. This is just a cheap hobby vise, clamps onto the bench there, and the good thing with this is that I can then clamp the blade into the jaws, and it gives me complete access along the whole top of the knife. So I can finish the pommel area off, and then I can then go on to do the entire spine of the knife from the pommel to the tip in one unfettered movement. Anyway, I've got a bit more work to do on this one yet, so a bit more sanding to do on the pommel there, and a bit more working through the grits. I'm currently on 1200 on the back of the spine here, and again I'll go 1200, 2000, 3000 and then polish. I made this nail. Basically it's a nail. What you see here is a nail. I cut a slot in it, and that allows me to fit a piece of abrasive into the slot like that, if it's focused, and then I can use that to clean out the hole, the lanyard tube, I can fit all sorts of different grits into this, and as it spins, the centrifugal force means that the tail of the grit paper flips out and does a good polishing job on the internals. Okay, so there we have a knife that I have finished. This is one of my favourite bits as well of knife making, is when you come to take off the masking tape. Originally, when I put the masking tape on the blade, I wrapped it all the way round. That allows me to work on the rough shaping of the handle without damaging myself on the cutting edge, which hasn't been stropped but it's still sharp, and it also protects the finish of the blade. But then when I move on to want to finish the spine of the knife and the tang, I then just simply get a Stanley blade or a sharp blade, cut the top of the masking tape off, revealing the tang, and I can then work the rest of the knife, finish that off, and the sides of the blade are still protected. Now when I peel these off, they will look dirty. I hasten to add that I've also protected the steel with petroleum jelly before I wrap the blade, so the blade doesn't need cleaning now. But that's the knife finished, more or less. Just needs a clean up. I'm sat in my conservatory and it's so bright in here. I've got my wife Mandy also sat in here. She's recovering from her operation. I think she's doing alright. Slow progress, up to be honest with you. Anyway, I finished a batch of 6 knives. These are 2 Hornets and 4 classics. The classics are 4mm with tapered tangs. The Hornets are 3mm with straight tangs. I'll show you the Hornets. This is the first Hornet. So this is the first Hornet. This has been built for a friend actually, whose initials are JB. Yeah, I won't say no more than that. You'll know who he is. So it's the Hornet, which is, I consider it one of my pack knives. Neck knife, pack knife sort of thing. Stabilised mass of birch with mosaic pins, and this one's got black G10 liners. O1 tool steel. Someone did say, how do you look after your steel? What oil do you use on the blades? Well, I tend to use just the ordinary light machine oil, gun oil, something like that. If you're going to use it for food prep, then just wipe that oil off before you use it for food prep. There's another oil which you can get called camellia oil. I've never used it, but apparently it's food safe, so you can apply camellia oil. You only want a little bit. Well, this is what I've been using, but I use WD-40, other proprietary. Napier's a very good gun oil. You just want to spray a little bit on. Get a bit of kitchen towel. Wipe the blade over. Wipe the metal through the tang, and the knife's ready to be put away. That's it, that's all I do. Got another Hornet. I haven't built many of these, so I think I've only built about 5 or 6, and there's 2 of them here. It's the larger version of the Wasp, so you can use it as a neck knife or a pack knife. 3mm O1 tool steel, triple tempered to 59 HRC, stabilised all the knives here are stabilised Massa birch scales. Moving on to the unstabilised wood. This is desert ironwood. This is a 4mm thick knife with a tapered tang. As you can see, the tang is tapering from 4mm there down to just under 2mm at the back. It's a very hard wood, hence the name Ironwood. It is like iron. It's very hard to work as well. Mosaic pins, red G10 liners. I built 3 classics, all 4mm with tapered tangs and stabilised Massa birch. There's one. This one's got a little knot feature just there. As I say, all in all, I've built 3 of these. There's another one. This one has red G10 liners. Totally handmade, nothing is outsourced. And then lastly, this I think is the prettiest of all the Massa. It's got a nice, some nice Massa features. Again, stabilised, so it's as hard as iron. Tapered tang, black G10 liners. I just have the leather sheaves to build for these, and then that will that'll be that. So they hopefully be on the website at some point later on this week. Mandy's sat in with me. She's recovering from her operation. She's doing very well. I've got to keep an eye on her, so what I tend to do is go into the workshop, spend half an hour in the workshop, come on indoors,
have a little wander as well, I do.
Check up on her. She has a little wander around the house and into the garden. And she's doing really well. So I think that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you've picked up a few tips. I mean, I still pick up tips myself when I'm in the workshop. You know, I try something here. I try a little experiment on how I can improve things and make things a bit quicker and make things a bit better. And I just discover a few little hints and tips myself as I go along, but through my time spent in the workshop now. So if I can pass some of those on to help any budding knife makers, then I guess it's a good thing. So with that, I hope you're all bearing up under the strain of this lockdown. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.